Okay, so we are continuing our Avraham ben Rambam on the drashos of Chazal. We have this new edition, which I'm not going to put on YouTube because it would entail putting everything on YouTube. So what I'm going to do is when we read from it, I'm going to put the old edition on the screen in case, so someone can have something to look at, and at least that way they know what's different. So I just want to, before we even start, I just want to give you a little guided tour of a few comments. Like I had so many comments bookmarked that I just wanted to go through, but I just want to show you a couple. I don't want to bog us down. So the first one is, we mentioned last time that it was claimed that the entire part about Chazal and science is a forgery. Okay, so look on in the intro, in the Mavo, look on page Tes Vav. Okay. Here's the difficulty. Okay? The difficulty is there is no fully extant manuscript in Arabic. Okay, there is a translation from an anonymous translator in Hebrew, and there are fragments of the Arabic. Okay, but there's no full Arabic translation of everything. Okay, so you see here it says on the second indented line, "Bihine hatakaso shel harav." I couldn't figure out who this is. Rav something Vidal. It might be the Rabbi Shayahu from Trani. That's also the Rid. Not the Tosfos Rid, I don't think, but the Rid. So he's one of the ones who cites Parsha. So it says he cites mitchila b'milim elu. So he cites these words. V'hinei ra'isi mamar katzar she'asa b'no shel harav hanizkar b'lashon Arabi. So I saw a short statement or short treatise from the son of the Rav who was mentioned, meaning the Rambam, in Arabic. Ubo chilek hama amarim l'chamisha chalakim, and in it he divides all statements of Chazal into five categories. Od chilek hamasios l'dal chalakim, and then he divides the midrashic events into four sections. Okay, now here's this guy's theory. Lashono moresh lo chashav mitchila lahatik es kol hamamar. So his language indicates that in the beginning, he didn't intend to copy down, to transcribe the entire treatise. Ella rak masha nitzrach lo mimena lifnei inyano. He only wanted to transcribe what he needed, which is the part about the dividing the categories of Midrashim. V'lachein barar. So therefore, it is clear. She'ein mamash b'taina shehitzbia aleha harav Moshe Meiselman. So apparently, Rav Moshe Meiselman, who's a Talmud of the Rav, is the one who came up with this theory that Mati Cohen ran with, that the entire first part's forged. Because Rav Moshe Meiselman is against, from what I've heard, I haven't heard his lectures. He's like against the idea of science, like Chazal not knowing science and all that other stuff. So he says that it is clear that the claim of Rav Moshe Meiselman, lefiha ovedes Hashmatas harav vidal es hatzah shehikdim Rabbeinu mehatakaso hiraya shehilo mikores. So Rav Moshe Meiselman brings as a proof that this whole first part of Avraham ben Rambam's treatise is not found in the original. He brings that from this one line, that the fact that this Rav Vidal only cites this one part of it, that's his proof that the other part is not authentic. No, so this Rav Vidal in his essay cites just Avraham ben Rambam's divisions of Midrashim, but he doesn't cite the intro. Okay. And Rav Moshe Meiselman brings that as a proof that the part he doesn't cite is not real. Okay? And what this person is arguing is, who is this person? MBA Myman at gmail.com. I didn't catch his name. Does it say in the front cover? Moshe Myman. Good name. Yeah. It could be. I mean, there's Mymans in Seattle. I mean, yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, so his claim, what do I call him? Mr. Myman? Mr. Myman's claim is that Rav Moshe Meiselman's inference that the rest of this treatise is not real since Rav Vidal doesn't quote it. So he says, Hashara porachas, it's a baseless conjecture. She'ein la afilu regel achas al mal lismoch. Doesn't even have a foot to stand on.
When was Rav Vidal? Is he like?
He's early, I think. He's like in the, if it's the Rav Vidal I'm thinking of, then he's like in the, almost a contemporary of Avraham ben Rambam, like a little bit later. He's early Rishon. But I couldn't find, I was looking earlier, I skimmed through the entire Hakdama just to see what the deal is with the Girsaos. And I couldn't, maybe I missed it. I just couldn't see his name, just Rav something Vidal, you know? Yeah. So anyway, so Mr. Maimon theorizes that that Rav Moshe Meiselman's thing is completely baseless, and he says kfi shenochiach b'ha'aroseno leguf ha'mamar, as we will demonstrate in our footnotes on the body of the essay. Ha'hagdama hi chelik bilti nifrad miguf ha'mamar. The intro is an inseparable part of the treatise. Uketzafui, as you'll see, hakvius shebamamar hin hispatchus harayonos shekadmu b'hagdamas mamar. The rest of the essay is a development of thoughts that were established in the Hagdama. Yeah. Okay. So that's one thing I wanted to show you. Okay. Another thing I want to show you is there's so much stuff I could show you, but I'm being selective here. Okay. So this is a cool thing in why did I bookmark this one? Oh yeah, okay, so here is a part that is entirely missing from the version we did. Okay, so look on page mem. And this is like many paragraphs that are missing from ours. Okay, so have you heard of this machlokes between Chazal and the Chachmei Umas HaOlam about whether the sun goes behind the rakia or under the earth? Yeah. So it's he goes into all the details of it, and I'm really not interested in that. Maybe when we do the second paragraph of the Torah, we'll talk about it. But the point, so he quotes the whole thing. So okay, fine. If you look at Lamed Ches, okay, I guess is where we should start. Yeah. Okay. The last paragraph, Amar Basof Brisa. I guess this is a Brisa. You see it? Chachmei Yisrael omrim b'yom chama holeches lamata min harakia uvelayla lamala min harakia. So the Jewish sages say that that during the day the sun goes under the firmament, and in the night it goes above the firmament. V'das zo b'li safek devuka. Now you see how he has a little font there, the little font Lashita. So that's when he adds a little font thing, that's his own words. Okay, so so this it's related to this machlokes of whether the celestial sphere is set and the stars move, or whether the stars are set and the celestial sphere moves. Okay, I didn't follow the whole Aristotelian Shaklavitaria. But then v'chachmei ha'umos omrim biyom chama mahalachas lamala min haaretz. So the non-Jewish sages say that during the day the sun goes above the earth, uvelayla lamata min haaretz, and at night it goes under the earth. V'das zo b'li safek devuka l'shitas galgal chozeres umazal's kvuin. That shita is connected to the idea that the celestial sphere rotates and the constellations are set. Okay, if you're interested in the details, look at all the footnotes and the rest of the thing. The kasher shama Rebbi hadvarim ha'ela. So when Rabbeinu Kadosh heard these words, shehim totzaos min ha'hagdamos shechalku b'hem tchila, which are the outcome of the premises which they disagreed on at the outset. Hichriya das chachmei umas ha'olam b'rayazo sh'amar. So he decided in favor of the non-Jewish sages in this proof. Sh'amar, that he said nirim divreim shebiyom minus sonanos uvalaylo minus roschim. So what was his proof? That during the day the well springs are cold, and during the night they get hot. So that proves that the sun goes under the earth, okay, because it heats up the well springs, okay. V'hinei zos im heyos raya zo rafa v'chalusha kasher ata roa. Even though this proof is very weak, as you'll see. Okay, fine. Okay, but then he goes like this. Now he brings the implications from this for our purposes. V'ata his bonin ma. By the way, you see how much of this is the text and how much of this is the footnotes? Yeah. V'ata his bonin mashu horonu b'brisa zo. So check out how instructive this brisa is. Yeah.
So what does the bowls mean?
I think that's just his emphasis. Yeah, that's not like a Girsa thing. Sorry, unless it's when he, sorry. That's when he's quoting verbatim from the brisa. Yeah. Okay, so note what this brisa is teaching us. Umayakar inyana shelamadnu, and how precious the idea is that it taught us. Ki Rebbi lo hibit bedas elu ela mider harayos. So remember, the whole context of this is when someone says something, you shouldn't pay attention to who said it. You should only pay attention to the content, right? Even if you should have been and said it, then you shouldn't believe him. So he says, note how Rebbi only paid attention to the proofs. Belil hasim al lev shum netia maso panim, without any showing of favor or favoritism. Lo l'chachmei Yisrael, v'lo l'chachmei umas ha'olam. He's just looking at the proofs, not caring if it's Jews or non-Jews who said it. V'hichriya das chachmei umas ha'olam, and he decided in favor of the non-Jewish sages. Because of this proof that he thought was a good proof, that in the day the well springs are cold and in the night they're hot. Contemplate the wisdom of this esoteric idea. Rebbi didn't paskin according to the opinion of the non-Jewish sages. I forgot when he says paskin. I forgot if this is connected to halacha at all. I can't remember. Ella, it might be connected to something having to do with Kiddush Chodesh. I don't know. Ella sheichriya data midas chachmei Yisrael al yidei shikul hadas baraya shezachara. Rather, he decided according to their opinion in favor of them over the chachmei Yisrael based on his rational intuition and proofs that we mentioned. Zehu shamar nirim tivrehem. That's why he says their words seem true. Shu mila bitui more al hachra'a v'lo psak muchlat, which is a word that indicates like an inclination for like a weighing of the decision as opposed to like a definitive conclusion. V'ilu nisbar lo bavadai ubaraya shebagalgal chozer umazos kavuim. If it were true, if it were clear to him certainly that the sphere rotates and the constellations are fixed, haya posik halacha kumosim, then he would paskin the halacha like them behechleit, absolutely. Kasher asu zulas min chachamim zal b'deos acheros, like the other chachamim did in other opinions. V'amru natzchu chachmei umas olam l'chachmei Yisrael, and he said that the Gentile sages defeated the chachmei Yisrael. Okay, so now here's the cool part. Okay, that's all lead into this one next line. Okay, this is an amazing line, and it's like it's missing from the normal editions. Uv emes nikra adon ze Rabbeinu hakadosh. Okay, teaser. He's going to define kedusha based on this example. Okay, it is for this reason that he's called Rabbeinu hakadosh. Why? Ki ha'adam kishiyashlich me'al panav hasheker v'kayim ha'emes v'yachrienu la'amito v'yachzor bo midato kishiyisbar lo hefka. That when a person throws behind him falsehood and affirms the truth and decides what is true and retracts from his own opinion when it's clear that what is the opposite, ein safek ki kadoshu. Without a doubt, he's kadosh. Okay. V'hinei nisbar lanu ki hachachamim zal enam ma'aynim hadeos v'lo mabitim osam ela mitzad amitasam u'mitzad rayosehem. It's clear that the chachamim only look into opinions and only like glance upon them based on their truth and their proofs. Lo mipnei ha'omer oso yeh mishiyeh, not because of who said it, whoever it is. Okay. You want to do a footnote or not? Because he brings proofs to say that this is an idea of kedusha. So let's figure out before we look at the footnotes. What's the idea of that being kedusha? Because we don't think of kedusha like that typically, right? Yeah.
I guess, kadosh means separate of it.
Right.
So in this case, you're separate from any emotional bias and purely using your mind to figure out what's true.
Exactly. Right. That's exactly it. Right. So to quote Al-Farabi, right? Do you remember what his first chapter was called? I don't know if it shocked you as much as I did. The first existence is one and mind.
Oh yeah.
Okay, right. So I remember Rabbi Sachs, my Rabbi Sachs, not Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs, would always define v'his kadishim v'hisim kadoshim as becoming mind. Okay, and I don't know if he got that from Al-Farabi or like he was just using it there, but the idea being that God, we're told in Parshas Kedoshim, V'yisim Kedoshim ki kadosh ani Hashem Elokechem, right? That you should be kadosh because I Hashem am kadosh. Now Hashem is completely. If you don't translate kadosh, you translate it. If you don't translate as holy, you translate it as separate, right? But then the question is separate from what? So how do you put it again?
In this case?
Yeah.
Separate from emotional.
Separate from the emotional influence, right? So I like to I think the most precise translation of kadosh. This is what I like to use, but I know it's not like vernacular. I like translating kadosh as transcendent, that you're separate but above, and separate from physicality and the influences of physicality.
Like a definition.
Yeah. So I've always liked that definition. Now, thanks to the footnote, he brings lots of proofs for it. So look at footnote. Lamed Zion, okay?
I mean particularly the word transcendent.
Oh, transcendent, yeah.
The definition was like, I mean, I like that also.
Yeah, but the word, you mean the translation?
word,
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, because separate is like, okay, fine. So you're separate, but like that's like a neutral term, you know?
Right.
Okay, so
Like, I'm separate from you.
yeah, right, exactly, yeah. And truthfully, the Torah does use the term kadosh just to mean separate sometimes. Like a kadesha is called a kadesha because she's separate for bia, not because she's like kadosh is an ideal. So like we do need another term to describe it if we want to use it about God and not have kadesha associations,
I thought that was like an anti-sagi nahar.
That's one definition of it. So the three opinions I know of it. One is that she's kaddish like mizuman for that job. I think Rashi says that, but I'm not sure if it's Rashi. Because like kichu hayom umachar, isn't that what Hashem says to Bnei Israel before Sinai? Kachu hayom umachar, because kaddish is lashon preparation or readying. Okay, so that's one definition. Another definition is it's sagi nahar, that she's really the antithesis of kedusha. And then my favorite one really is Rabbi Zucker's definition based on the Ramam in Hilchos Ishus. Anyone know the first halakha in Hilchos Ishus? Kodem Matan Torah?
Yeah, the form of the Torah, when people want to get married, like a man would find a woman in the marketplace.
Yeah.
And if they like each other, then like she'd come back to his house and they'd be married.
Right. And then after Matan Torah, then you do it through this way.
Yeah.
Now, do you know the next halacha? Before Matan Torah, man would meet a woman in the shuk, and if they wanted to do the business deal, then he would give her money, and then she would, then they would have bia, and then she would go on her way, and he would go on his way. So that's the institution of Kadesha. So that was totally mutter before Matan Torah. So Rabbi Zucker, he has a whole shiur on it. He explains that the part of the institution of Kiddushin expresses itself in two ways. One is in the positive institution of marriage being al yidei chuppah v'kiddushin, and the other is removing kadeshos from Klal Yisrael.
Cool.
So it's a reference to the institution of kedusha. So that's I think the coolest explanation.
So
Yeah.
it's not the other way around, that Kiddushin is a reference to Kadesha.
It's that they're both references to the fact that God was makadesh us in Ishus or in Arayos.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
One, yeah. Okay, so he says like this now. So Lamed Zayin, Dome Shabir Rabbeinu Chidushu. I say so. Seems like Rabbeinu is teaching us a chiddush. Ubatach lo ne'elam mimeno mash amru Chazal b'Shabbos. So it certainly was not unknown to him what Chazal said in Shabbos. Do you know, before you read it, you know why Rabbeinu Kadosh is called Rabbeinu Kadosh? Yes. Yeah, right. So that's what it says. That's Gemara in Shabbos.
This is like a drashos.
Yeah, exactly. So we get more drashos in this way. So Amru le Rebbi, my tama karu lach Rabbeinu Kadosh. I didn't know they asked him. Rebbi, why did they call you Rabbeinu Kadosh? So Amru, who he says, Miyamai lo nistakalti b'mila shali. I never looked at my mila. Yeah.
Actually, in Eruvin, if there's like a further like level of dialogue, I think Rebbi Meir says, but I also never did that. I'm not called.
That's funny.
He never looked like below his waist at all.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. So this is a good example, by the way, of, we're going to have to classify this once we go through the 5 categories of Midrash, but like, really? Like, that's why I ask him, like, really? Like, you never, miyamai, never. And so what?
Right.
And not only that, I'll argue, what does the Rambam say? You can argue against this, but I'm just going to make a big deal about it. Why does the Rambam say that Hilchos Mila is included in Sefer Ava?
We're supposed to, it's a reminder.
I was going to guess something like that.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, when is it a reminder?
Always.
No.
When you don't have any other.
When you don't have any other reminders, right? So when you don't have any other of the things that remind you of Avos Hashem, then you have your Mila, right? Now you can argue, well, you don't have to look at it to be reminded, but like, right. Okay, fine. So he says like this: the Urei Keinzeb Yerushalmi Megillah. I doubt any of us knows what this Yerushalmi Megillah is. V'achein b'derech klal Torah kedusha nishtamer le'inen prishus b'inyane arayos. So in general, the description of kedusha is utilized regarding separation from matters of arayos, of prohibited relations. I did not know the story about the footnote that Elisha was called Kadosh. He would never think of it. I assume that it is. I mean, I don't know what the it is, but something having to do with the rayos, to the point where he never saw carry. Uvehemshech sham bir al pizeh tamo hamaforsam l'kriyas lashon haTorah b'shem lashon hakodesh. Right. So what's the Rambam's explanation for why Hebrew is called lashon hakodesh?
Oh, doesn't have any curse words or like no, it's sexual.
Sexual words. Right? It doesn't have any sexual or bodily function words. Primarily, it's only euphemisms. Regam mahalam b'chelik shlishi michiluki hadrashos sheRabbeinu atmo halach b'derech haragila v'bir pasuk v'yisem kedoshim. So the Avraham ben Rambam himself goes and explains the normal way of v'yisem kedoshim. V'hishve pirusho leparshas Yisro, and he and compare his explanation to parshas Yisro. Ureima shekasavti neched nechdo. Look at what the is that the grandson of the grandson or is that the great grandson? Oh, I guess that's great grandson, right? Probably. Rav David Hanagid. Hasheni. Yeah, Hasheni, right? Because it was Maimon, Moshe ben Maimon, Avraham ben Moshe, David ben Avraham, and then I guess there's a second David. David
Named
ben.
after his father. I guess they're sort of. So, never mind.
Right, but you're not naming after your father if you're smart.
Maybe it was his grandson.
You're usually naming after your grandfather, so it's a little weird. What was that?
Maybe it was his grandson's grandson.
Maybe, yeah. That would make more sense. But clearly the Ram and his son didn't follow the whole naming after your. It's not Maimon ben Moshe. It's Avraham ben yeah. Anyway, whoever this is, Rav Nagid Sheni b'moreh haprishus shelo. He wrote a moreh haprishus. Never heard of this one before. Hayoser tov v'yasharhu sheyidche oso oidei somos im afshar. So it's best if you push it aside through fasting. Okay. V'domei la'adon ha'elohim v'rosh hamizbodedim. Similar to the master, the godly Lord, master, I guess, and the leader of the secluders, Eliyahu Hanavi Zachor Latov, Ukderech ben Azai. Okay, so be like Eliyahu ben Azai. Valkin Amar Reish Lakish, Kol Hayoshet B'Tainis Nikra Chasid. Anyone who sits in a Tainis is called a Chasid. Amar Rabbi Elazar Nikra Kadosh Shesar Mimenu Ta'anug HaTaiva. So that's getting closer to this idea now, yeah?
This seems very ascetic.
So this is a charge which I actually this is one thing that's been I've been very curious about. Have you ever heard this thing with the Rebbi ben Rambam?
What?
The charge.
What charge?
There's a charge, and I'm not saying this, but Derek Rechilus. There's a charge that he was very influenced by the Sufis, and the Sufis were an ascetic Muslim sect. And the place I think that people point to this for is in the Hamas B'Glo of Hashem. He talks a lot about precious and seclusion and various forms of self deprivation. Like I don't remember if I read this on I think I read this in the Kiddush shiur, the Sunday shiur, that he is describing the levels of keeping Shabbos. So first level is you just keep halakha. Second level is like you think about Ma'aser Bereishis. Third level is like you read through the Psukim and think about what God created on each day. Next level is like you spend all of Shabbos studying physics to the point where you're not eating anything except what you need, and you're not drinking anything except what you need, and you're not talking except things that have to do with Chachma and Torah, and things pass before your eyes and you don't even see them, and things sound in your ears and you don't hear them, and all of your soul is just completely like wrapped up in Avas Hashem, you know? So yeah, so there are like statements of these and directives of these about precious and hisbodedus that people say. Again, I think this is like, I don't know if this is like, if he says this anywhere, or if this is like an academic claim, but I've heard rumors swirling that, ooh, nice. Right. The whirling dervishes, right? Yeah. Nice. That was not intentional. That he was ascetic. Now, I want to investigate those rumors myself, which is partially why I want to buy the Masbik Love Edition and read through the whole thing. But yes, it's very ascetic, and I have seen certain trends of his that are like that. You know, Rambam does not talk about hisbodedus in this way, and in fact, he already talks about the opposite. But Avraham ben Rambam speaks positively about that, of like secluding yourself. Yeah.
The Yid credits talking here. It's talking about sexual matters.
I'm assuming just from the way he brings the context, but I don't know. It says sheyidche oso.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the oso is.
Right. That's
Yeah, it's not arayos, right? But yeah, I'm not sure. Okay, but now he transitions. So that last point was the point he's leading into. Rabbi Elazar nikra kadosh shesar mimeno ta'anug ha'taiva. Malcolm Acher He'arti Shemakor Devarav Hu B'divrei Rabbeinu B'Sefer HaMaspik Ayin Sham. This is the weird thing, by the way. Since this is a contemporary sefer, I mean, this is happening more and more now. I am not used to having contemporary Sfarim, but it's weird seeing like email addresses and like English titles of like they quoted like Art Scroll, like the Eye of the Storm, and like Feldheim, like, you know, like it's just weird seeing that in a sefer, in a proper sefer, you know. But yeah, I guess that's the world we're living in. So here it's B'divrei Rabbeinu B'Sefer HaMaspik Hotzas Feldheim Amud 426. Yeah. Ein Sham.
I wouldn't have been able to read that.
Oh yeah. And I guess this is before he published his own one, because otherwise he would quote his own one, I guess. Near Efo Shish Legasher Ben Hanosim, V'nomar Shemahu Sakadusha Be'ene Rabbeinu Hi Lihios Nivdal Mitayvas Ha'olam V'iskav. Okay, so the essence of Kedusha, according to Avraham and Ramam, is to be separated from the worldly desires and involvements. And then he says, Kilashon Shapirish Harav Avraham ben Ezra B'Pirush L'Telem Lamadalid Yud. So I looked at that, and this is why I love good footnote people, is like, and I looked it up, and yeah, Avraham and Ramam defines, he says that's what Kedusha is. It's just Ibn Ezra, yeah. I meant Ibn Ezra, yeah. Wrong Avraham. Yeah, so it's just nice to have that definition. Uvechein, Mishim Muchan Lahodos al Ha'emes. Now he says what Yaakov says. Therefore, someone who is disposed to admit to the truth, Ve'eno misakesh l'ha'mi dato b'hioso karov etalatzmo, and he's not stubborn to persist in his opinion, being that a person is karov etal atmo. That's a Chazal statement, Chazal, right? Adam is karov etal atmo. I never know how to translate that literally. It doesn't literally mean that he's a relative to himself. It means like he's like biased in regards to himself, you know? So if a person is willing to like admit to the truth and retract his opinion, it's clear that he is separate from, he's transcendent and separate from the desires of the world and its involvements. Only someone who has deviated from his bodily desires is prepared to seek and to accept concepts. As he said earlier in the intro to the matter, he said earlier there, it's something that is easy, clear and easy to anyone who is not under the sway of his bodily desires. So that's like his standard of Kedusha here. And let's see what I said there about in the footnotes. Maybe we should see there. So the Rambam himself acknowledges that this is why Rebbe is called Rabbeinu HaKadosh in the Talmud of the Perush Mishnayos. Rabbeinu HaKadosh Olav Shalom v'haya yachid b'dor v'echad b'zmano. So Rabbeinu HaKadosh was singular in his generation and in his time. V'haya ish shkibetz Hashem bo midos mushubachos usugulos. He was a person in whom God had collected praiseworthy and precious traits. Shahaya roi biglalan etel anshe dorosh yikra'uhu Rabbeinu HaKadosh, which were proper for the people in his generation to call him Rabbeinu HaKadosh. V'haya b'tachlis hachachma v'rov hamala, rum hamala. He was at the utmost of chachma and the highest level of highest level. V'haya b'tachlis hachasidus v'hanava v'harchakas hatanugim. So he mentions the harchakas hatanugim is distancing himself from enjoyments. Yeah. So that's his idea of Kedusha here, but it's just that you don't typically hear of intellectual honesty being called Kedusha. Right. And I thought that was a great point. And it's just entirely missing in the normal Avraham ben Avraham, you know? Yeah. And this is a good exemplification of the detailed footnotes
Right.
that I love so much. Yeah.
It is a forgery too.
Oh no! Yeah. Okay.
Should
So
I see the next one?
what was it?
Should I also see the next one?
Sure. Yeah, mistaber shetfisas Rabbeinu misbaseses bedugmaos nosafas banhagasos Rabbeinu Kadosh b'kagonzeh. It seems reasonable to assume that the Avraham ben Avraham grasp is based in other additional examples of the conduct of Rabbeinu Kadosh. Kamo mash matzina b'Sanhedrin tzadi aleph amud beis shebeshtei vikuchim shaylo sham im Antoninos. Oh, Marcus Aurelius, right? That in the two disagreements he had with Marcus Aurelius, Hoda Rebbi Divrei Antoninos v'Amar Davar Zer Lamdeni Antoninos u'Mikra Messiah. He says this is what Marcus Aurelius taught me, and the pasuk supports him. Yeah, Ein Sham. Yeah. So in other words, there's other examples of him being called of him displaying this thing. So Avraham was not getting it all from the statement of Kedusha, or from this like Greek thing, he's getting it from other incidents. Yeah. Okay. All right. So that was one thing I just wanted to read here. Okay. So let's go to where we left off. Should we do that? Okay. So just to review, we did two categories of drashos. First one was drashos that are kipshatan. Okay. And by the way, one of the nice things about this edition as well is whenever Rebbi Avraham and Rambam quotes part of a memra, then this cites the entire thing. Okay. So for example, if you just look at page Mem Hey in the bold, this is the thing in Brachos, the example he gave. Amar Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, Asar la'adam shimale schok piv ba'olam hazeh, shnemar az yimale schok pinu, and then he quotes the rest of it. Ulashonein rina, az yomeru v'goyim higdil ad Hashem lasas imela, imasai yimale schok pinu, ulashonein rina, bizman sheyomer v'goyim higdil ad Hashem lasas imela. So that's the full quote. And then footnote, by the way, points out that when it says Asar, it's not halachic.
What?
You want to read the footnote? In this instance, because that bothered you last time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems Shulchan Aruch will do this.
Oh yeah. Or maybe the Shulchan Aruch this footnote will apply to also. So we're not going to read the whole footnote, but look at the brackets at the bottom of page Mem Hey. B'inyan lashon iser v'chadome b'davar she'eno mitzad ha'halacha re'ema shebir Rabbeinu b'pirusha al Torah b'parshas Vayishlach al ma'amar mazal b'brachos kol ha'korei la'Avram avinu Avram over V'lav. Okay, so that's a statement of Chazal. If you call Avram, you violate a los aseh. So I mean, you'd be hard pressed to say that's halachic.
Yeah.
You could say that, but I don't even think the Bahag counts that. Okay.
I'm not sure he does.
So he says. So I have not looked up this Avraham and Ramam on Vayishlach. Behishve, maybe we could look it up in a second. Behishve mashakaz of Tosos Tainus. B'davar ma'aram zal asur l'shamash mitasa b'shnei ra'avon shekasav lo havi asur ela l'misha rotze linhok atma b'chasidos. Okay, good. So he says, so there's a Gemara that says it's asur to have tashmish hamita in years of famine, and Tosfos says it's only asur to someone who wants to conduct himself b'chasidos. So I actually saw this. I was teaching in Jewish ethics. Havidanas kol adam l'kav zchus. So the way the Rambam formulates the halacha is he says, with someone who has a reputation of being a tzaddik, you're chayev to be down l'kaf zechus, even if it looks like they did something really bad. And with a rasha, someone who's known to be a rasha, even if he does something that looks good, you're chayev to be down l'kaf chova. And then he says, with a regular person who you don't know whether they're tzaddik or a rasha, and they do an action that's ambiguous, then he says, you're not mechuyev to be down l'kaf zechus, but you're it's chayev. It's a chova mitzad chasidus to be down l'kaf zechus, and that's what the Mishnah is talking about. And I think he even says it's usher. I'm just going to get it to make sure I'm not misquoting. And it's almost a contradiction in terms to say chova mitzad chasidus, because the way he learns chasidus is lifnim mishur tzadin, beyond the letter of the law. So if it's beyond the letter of the law, how can you even use the lashon of chova and iser? So he says in Avos 1:6. So he says, yeah, chova b'derech chasidus ladun l'kav zechus. And then, okay, so I guess that's the only thing he says. Yeah, so it's similar to this, though. It's like Asr mitzad chasidus and Chova mitzad chasidus. So it's a good question. What does that mean, though? But he's saying that there is this category of when they use the word Asr or Chova, then it's not actually halachically Asr or Chov, it's b'derech chasidus. So I guess the question is like, well, let's just finish reading the footnote. V'chein ayin laharav chavas ya'ir b'tshivosav v'zohi gam shitas Rambam v'kama makomos re'elu dugma b'hilos avadim shekazav chachamim harishonim hayu nosnim le'eved mikol tavshil v'tavshil shay ochlin umakdimim mazon habehemos v'havanim l'suudas atman. That's not really a good raya. He says the Rambam says that the Chachamim Rishonim would give to their servants some of each cooked dish that they ate, and they would feed their animals and their servants before they fed themselves. That doesn't say chova or aser. Oh, no, sorry. Gittin hotiu ezeb lashon iser va'amru aser lo la'adam shiutom klum ad shiutin lebehemtos. That's his raya, right? So the Gemara says it's aser, but the Ram just brings it down as this is what the Chachamim Harishonim would do, which implies it's mias chasidus. The kahina rabos, and there are lots of examples like this. Ayin bezel harav chida b'sefer ayin zocher ulahariz shetaon. Yeah. So it does make things difficult though, right? Because if it says aser or chayav, like how do you know whether it's a halachic iser or not? And I've thought this in the Rambam also. Like there are certain things where it seems like he's saying it's aser, but it feels like derech chasidus, like mias chasidus. So like, how do you tell? You know?
Wait, is the Rambam making his point? Or this is the footnote guy's point?
This is the footnote guy's point about how seems like he's taking it as pashut that when it says aser lamale piv schok b'olam hazeh, then that's not an actual halachic iser, and then now he's just justifying how can it not be halachic iser if it says aser.
Yeah.
Maybe the first part of his thing, his footnote dealt with it. Let me just skim it really quickly.
Nice.
What was that?
It's a nice book.
Yeah.
Printing wise.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Pleasing to the eye. Yeah. Yeah, you gotta love the bookmark. I mean, it's such an easy thing for them to do, but like it makes a difference. Like the bookmark. Yeah.
That's just the name of sitter with 2 bookmarks.
Oh, the two bookmarks is key. Yeah,
Scary.
definitely. Yeah, you're right, especially sitter. Okay, fine. So then that was his first category. Second category was drashos, where the pshat is against the real Tom. Okay. Shocking fact. I just have to say another shocking fact I learned from this. Have you heard of Shmuel ben Chofni? I think Ibn Ezra quoted him in his Hakdama, or maybe the Rambam quoted him in the Hakdama to the Sefer Mitzvos.
Okay.
So regarding miracle stories in the Gemara, okay, Shmuel ben Chofni is the most machmir shita I've seen. And actually, sorry, it's not even a footnote here. This led me, it quoted Shmuel ben Chofni as saying this, but it didn't actually quote him, it referenced him. And in Turo, I took this is a great year. I forgot, do you guys know Rindy or not?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Rindy is a big history buff.
Right.
So he and I were in Turo together, and we took a history course with a professor, and it was just me, Rindy, and some other guy. The other guy was never there. Rindy was just arguing history with the professor the whole time. I would sit with my laptop, review Rav Pesach shiur, and then like I think I had a timer or something. Every 15 minutes, I would look up and like make a point or ask a question, and then I would just go back to reviewing. So in that class, we had to pick a project, a history project. So I picked a history project on the Gaonim in Arabic lands or something like that, So I have a bunch of books in my apartment that are like about the Gaonim. So like I was like, okay, let me look at the Shito. So look at Shmuel ben Chofni, and it has an excerpt from him. He holds that it is impossible for open miracles to be done for anyone except Nevi'im. So he holds none of the stories in the Gemara that involve miracles are literal. Whereas he argues in Avraham and Ramam that Avraham and Ramam says you shouldn't necessarily take all the miracle stories about Chazal literally, but like it can happen, which Shmuel ben Chofni is like, that's Bashita. He holds that like only Nevi'im, I was like shocked to see that. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Anyway, so the second thing was things that go against the that the pshat goes against the real meaning. Okay, so like everyone dancing around God in a circle. Okay, now the third one we didn't read, but in the, last week, but we did read this when we did the Yetzer Hara Yetzer Tov thing. But let's reread it again because I haven't read it in the new edition, and we'll see if anything is new. Okay, so this is on page Memches. Oh, I guess I'll put this on screen, even though it's lacking. I should just put like an ad for like this this book so everyone buys it. Yeah.
And he'll be even more confused.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh, did I close the window? Oh, I closed the window. Hold on.
suddenly like tons of people in Paraguay and a few people in France. So.
Yeah.
One
Yeah.
guy in Montana.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So he says like this. Drashos shekasha lahavin hapshat hapashut shalahan. So these are drashos that it's difficult to understand the pshat, the simple pshat in them. Okay. Achel shlishi mehen drashos she'en lahem inyan nistar. So these are drashos that do not have a hidden idea or a concealed idea. Ella kavanas omran hu niglehen bilvad. The intent in the one who said them is their external meaning alone. Ella shahavanas hanigla hahu yikshe al rov hamainim ad shelo yuvan. However, the understanding of the external meaning is very difficult to the majority of people who analyze it, to the point where they don't understand it. See, there's another large instance of odd Isaac, right? Yeah. Im yuvan, and if they understand it, if it's understandable, tiye havana chasera o mushubeshes. It's going to be a deficient or confused understanding. Ulfamim yira mirov drashos hachel kazeh hipuch kavanasam lekoshi ha'inyanim ulhishtatkus hamilos. Many times you'll find in these drashos the opposite of their intent due to the difficulty of the subject or the equivocality of the terms. V'hainu shelo yeda haroe eze inyan niskaven ha'omer inyan hamilos hahem asher yoru alav. Namely, that the one who looks into the drasha doesn't see the intent of the speaker in the meanings of the word of these words, like what they indicate. Oshlo yavin im hamilos hahem ne'amru b'shituf al shnei inyanim o yoser. Or they don't see that the terms are being used equivocally for two or more meanings. Okay. So this chelik is of the same level of difficulty as the first chelik. Now, here's what the footnote comes in, because it says, Yod Zayin, Benifas l'chelik shelafanav. So the published edition, which is the one we have, says the prior chelik, not the first chelik. V'gam l'girsas ha'makor kinhu ha'mechuvan. According to the original Arabic, that's also what it is. So that makes much more sense, right? Because the first chelik is not difficult. First chelik is the one that it's shot and it's easy. So it must mean, even though he says the chelik original, it must mean the previous chelik, which is the one with the hidden meanings. Yeah. Okay. We just read that. Ella should be mixas makomos who yoser kashmin Midrashim. In some places, it's more difficult than the prior category. Therefore, you need to be careful with it. And you need to be very, very excessive in explaining it, so they don't fall into error and a deviation from the intended meaning. Okay. V'dugmas chelik zeh mimash amru b'gemara barachos le'olam yargiz adam yetzer tov al yetzer hara shnemar rigzuv al techatu. Now you see he adds in the part that our Gemara had that the other one didn't. Im nitzcho mutav im lav yasog b'torah shnemar imru b'vavchem. If he defeated it, good. If not, be involved in Torah, as it says, say in your heart. Im nitzcho mutav. If he defeated it, good. Im lav yikra kriyashma. And if not, then he should read kriyashma shnemar al mishkavim, on your beds. Im nitzcho mutav im lav yiskor yom hamisa shnemar v'do musala. If he defeated it, good. If not, he should remember the day of death, as it says, and be silent, Selah. The inkamanas drasha zo zulasi niglasa, and the intent of this drasha is nothing other than its open meaning. Ella shavanas niglasa yikshe machmas helam horas yitzatov yitzahara. I'm not going to go on length on this. If you see a problem or a question, point it out. But since I already gave shiur on this, we don't need to go into depth unless we see something new. Understanding is difficult because of the meanings of yitzatov and yitzahara here. Okay.
I feel like for this category, saying we already know what it's talking about.
yeah, it's a little ironic. Yeah. So he has a whole footnote here, which I did read, by the way, about why he says the word kan. And he argues that the meaning of yetzer hara that he gives here is not always the meaning of yetzer hara. So if you're interested, you can read the footnote, but I don't think we need to read it here. It's also difficult to understand the meaning of everything they mentioned here. I'll enlighten you so you can understand and extend this principle to everything like it. But Omer, shekavanas yargiz, what does yargiz mean? He hashalita v'hanitzachon. It's dominance and victory, or defeat. Being victorious. V'yitzer tov hu haseichel. Okay. We don't need to another. V'yitzer hara kanhu hataivos hagufanios v'kiyotz ben min hachesronos. I don't think, does our edition say min hachesronos? I'm just looking here. No, it says v'kiyoteba. So taivas and imperfections is chesronos. Yeah, not just desires. That's a slightly different implication.
Which includes what, like psychological things?
So if he's going to go at all like the Ramban, then imperfections. There's two categories of imperfections. There's imperfections of midos and imperfections of intellect, right? So midos would be like laziness, anger, jealousy, haughtiness, and imperfections of mind would be like lack of understanding, lack of memory, inability to picture things. He actually does say that though. I mean, like you can't be a navi if you have a defective imaginative faculty, and he holds that that's part of the imaginative faculty is the ability to picture things, which makes sense because Nevi'im see things in images, so sorry, there goes that career. So it would be included. So the reason why this is important is it's like these are things that are not like when you say taivas, that's like an active like force, but Yetzer Hara being all imperfections is a more expansive definition of the Yetzer Hara. Deficiencies or weaknesses. Yeah.
So like anger and things like that. That wouldn't be like a desire for a certain.
Yeah. I think that's what we said last time when we said taivos gufios v'kiyotzeba. We wanted to know what the kiyotzeba is. So we said it must be other psychological things, not just like appetite and like lust. Yeah. Okay. The kavanas ma'amaro l'olam yargis v'chulei hainu shi he adam tamid mashlit sichlo al tavosav al yidei machshava yeshara umuchuvenes. It's that a person should cause his intellect to dominate his desires through thought, through straight thought and intent. Okay. Let's look at the footnote here. 21. Kinirim mafar Rabbeinu b'midrashim zal. She yargis pirush yashlit v'hora doma lezeh matzanu b'divrei hari ibn Janach b'sharashav. You know who the Ibn Janach was?
Nope.
This is one of the big grammar guys, big war guys, fighting the grammar wars. So he wrote a Sefer HaSharashim. I don't remember. I think he took sides in the infamous Ar Sharashim 2 letters or 3 letters. And I think that was one of the big that was during that time period.
Which side was he on?
Debate.
It was a debate, and like apparently, so I'm not saying this firsthand because I wasn't alive in the 1300s, but I'm also not saying this secondhand because I didn't see this inside. But apparently, people were killed. Like it was like actual like violence was done or like beat up.
Wow.
Like it was actually like it was a big like Hebrew language war or something like that. I'll see if I can find like info on that. But it was like
World of Torah.
In the world of Torah, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, maybe not killed, beat up though, like roughed up, like hired, like thugs to like, yeah. That's what I was told by someone who's like a history guy. So
Whoa,
yeah,
that's crazy.
yeah. So I think he was one of the players. I don't know what side he was on though, and we know which one won. I mean, you're all raised to think it's 3-letter Shorashim, right?
Yeah, but there are 2-letter Shorashim also, aren't there?
Yeah, but the question is, what's the essence? What's the fundamental, and what's the perversion? Yeah, yeah. Okay, so it's like he says, "V'domel inyan hazeh amru v'tir gazi li b'chol ela klomer here basi b'chol maasim ha'ela v'amnam lo bir Rabbeinu mahus hamachshava hanachana b'diuk." Okay, so Rabbeinu does not explain what this machshava is that you're using to make your seichel dominate your taivas. So this is one of the questions we had when we did this in the shiur. What does it mean make your seichel dominate your taivas at all times? Just like dominate seichel. Like what do you do? So he says, I haven't read this footnote yet, by the way. You should turn your mind towards concepts in general. And therefore, it's like the Ramam at the end of his series, Bia. That's interesting. Are you familiar with that Ramam?
Yeah.
Yeah, we could look at it after this. We'll see where he goes. Therefore, there won't remain like a vacuum, an empty vacuum for the bodily taivas. Okay, We don't need to look it up. Okay, in Shekasav Ram Hilchos Yisrael Bia, like the Ram says in the Hilchos Yisrael Bia, Gedola Mikol Zos Amru Yifane Atmo Umachashavda L'Divrei Torah. This is when he's giving advice on how to deal with the sexual desires. Turn your mind and your thoughts to Divrei Torah, v'yarchiv data b'chachma, and expand your mind through wisdom. She'in machshavas arayos misgaberes ela b'leiv panoi min hachachma. That the thoughts of arayos only overpower a mind or a heart that is empty of chachma or free from chachma. That's like also the opening pasuk of Tehillim. We might do this in Tehillim shiur, so I hope this doesn't bias you, but I think this is like plain shot. The opening pasuk of Tehillim, of Sefer Tehillim, is
Kind of reminds me of the Gemara in Brachos.
yeah.
Yeah.
Which Gemara?
The one that you did in the Lomdeha seminar.
That
That if a person's about to sin, you should think of.
this is the one that we did.
This is not the Gemara here.
Yeah, isn't it?
Oh, this is the Rambam, no?
Oh, you mean the thing? Oh, yeah, but
The Gemara.
the one we're doing in the Avraham Ram is the Gemara that you're
Oh,
thinking,
okay,
right?
okay.
Yeah, but yeah, definitely. Ashrei ish. This is the opening two psukim of Tehillim. Ashrei ha'ish asher lo halach va'atas rishayim u'v'derech hatayim lo amad u'v'moshav leitzim lo yashav. So happy is the man, or praiseworthy is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked, and does not stand on the path of the sinners, and does not sit in the session of scorners. But only in the Torah of Hashem is his desire, and in his Torah he thinks day and night. So I don't know if I heard this from Rebbi or Rabbi Moskowitz, but like the idea being that like if your heart is not entirely involved in Torah, like if your energies are not entirely directed in Torah, it's going to trend towards one of those three drachim of either the derech of Rishayim, Chatayim, or Leitzim. You know, that like you only have a certain amount of energy, and it can either go towards the world of Chachma or toward the world of the bodily desires. So that's like what the Rambam is saying here, and the sexual is just like the biggest category of it. You know, uve ms. So he's suggesting. So what's he suggesting for what thought you use to be yashli sichlo al taivosav? What does that mean?
Torah.
Yeah, just involve your mind in concepts, you know, not even necessarily Torah, it seems, right? Just in conceptual knowledge. Okay. Uv ms karov hadavar lomar shegemara zo hu hadin hamakor. Sorry, that can't be hu hadin, can it? Hu hadin hamakor ledivrei Rambam sham. I think he's trying to say that it is the source of. It's possible that this Gemara is the source of the Rambam there. V'hishma ma shehosif harav v'da'el hatzarfati b'tamtziso. So he says you should make your seichel overpower your taiva because it was only created to serve God. It seems like he's like particularizing the thought, the good, proper thought that you should have in order to make your seichel overpower your taivas. But what we think we already wrote. But look at the next footnote. All right, fine. All right, so let's look back at the Avraham and Ramam though. What did we say though? We said Yashli Sichla al Taivosav, in that you should strive to practice Mishlek, thinking and everything. Meaning that in every case you should try to make a decision. You should consciously have this be your criteria to make a decision based on your intellect and not your desires, which fits in very well with this morning's Mishlei Pasuk of like, do the checklist of, do I have enough knowledge to make the decision, and am I being caught up in an emotion, you know? So that's a very different meaning than what he's saying. Yeah. Back in the Avraham, if this is sufficient to subdue your taivas, mutav, so that's great. So then you should involve your thought in the involvement of mentioning psukim. Oh, okay. See now, this is him adding a lot. Because speech is a faculty of intellect, or tool of the intellect. Through using your speech properly in conjunction with thought, in intending what you say, you will strengthen your thought and yagbi lehu mihashotitus v'haznacha, and fence it in from wandering and going away, going off. Yeah. So v'im zeh maspik mutav im lav yikra krishma v'yisbonim b'kavanasa. If that's good, great, and if not, then read krishma and contemplate its kavanah. So let's look at footnote 22 because he said that was next on the next page. So the second advice of be involved in Torah is tied to the first. Dahainu yargis, namely yargis, and continues from it. So it's not a separate step. It's just a way to strengthen the first step. Ratzalamar shi chazik hashiltonus, hishtaltus hamachshava al atayva ayidish yevate b'machshavosav b'fiv. So expressing your thoughts verbally will strengthen this. V'zeh muchiach k'devarenu shemachshava haniskeres hainu machshava b'divrei Torah v'chachma u'ke'en she'evanu b'divrei harama b'he'ara lefnei zeh. So that kind of refutes the way I was taking it, that it's mishlei. Because he's saying, he's learning it as an extension of the first thing, of articulate the thoughts that you were doing in the first step that didn't work. So in other words, if you just involve your mind in Torah, that's step one. If that's not working, then speak out the Torah constantly that you're doing, We didn't learn the Yashu Torah step because our version of Avram ben Ram didn't have it. Yeah. Okay, so then Kriya Shema is the next one. And this one gave us difficulty, I think. V'yichad Kriya Shema l'shtei sibos. He specified Kriya Shema for two reasons. Achas mehen v'hi ha'chalasha sheben is the weakest one. Ha'hochacha mipasuk hamakbil l'zeh l'fi sheb yesh hochacha mizeh she'amar hakasav al mishkavachem Kriya Shema nemar ba uv'shach b'cha v'zo gzer shava b'lashen al derech ha'hekeshim halachtim. Okay, so the first weak reason, it's a hekesh. It says on your bed. Right, that's the weak one. Second one's the strong one.
Wait, why is that? I don't get it.
He's saying, why is Kriya Shema, why does it say specifically the psukim of Kriya Shema? Because it says al mishkavachem, and it's in the pasuk. Yeah, fine. But the strong one is Kriya Shema yesh haskara b'dvarim hamromim shem tachlis yetzer tov. It mentions exalted things which are the purpose of the yetzer tov. Him hayichud v'ha'ava v'ha'avoda. Oneness of God, love of God, and avoda. V'aschar v'onesh, and reward and punishment. Uva hachna yisera shel yetzer hara mipnei she'amar yisal ba lo sasura achar levavchem achar einechem v'chizuk atzum shel yetzer tov mipnei she'amar ba v'hisim kedoshim lelokechem ani Hashem elokechem. So actually, that's not the one we had a hard time with. I was thinking in the Erie. He's saying that it's articulating what the proper relationship should be between the yetzer hatov and the yetzer hara. Of like, it's framing what you should use your yetzer tov for, Yichud Hashem, Avas Hashem, and avoda. It's saying what you should not use your yetzer hara for, which is lo sasur achar levavchem achar einechem, and saying that it should be used, and it should be kept in check with schar v'onesh. Okay, then v'az amar im yesh b'yetzer hara kalus rosh umidas hanitzuach. Now this is new. It says if there is in the yetzer hara frivolity and nitzuach, and how do you translate nitzuach?
Strength.
You could translate as strength. I feel like it has a connotation more of like victory or dominance, winning, domineering. What does this footnote say? Chav zayin. B'makor penkan pi yetzer ra min altish v'al gablo. Professor Horowitz tirgam she'im yesh b'yetzer ra pachzus udchifus v'nitfas im yetzer ra yale ga'ono v'ga'uso. I could get the yale ga'ono v'ga'uso if it's haughty. If it like seeks to dominate, I think. But ovin shlo yaspik l'hachnio in a way that you can't subdue it. Va'avlo b'drega hazo, even not with this method. Az yachnio b'zikaron hamavas of. Then you should subdue it with the reminder of death and the end. Uvzeh tiye tachlis shviras yetzer hara k'mosh amar akavi ben halalel. He's talking b'shlosh d'varim ein atal ba lidei avera dami ayin basa ul'an atal holech. All right, so I don't think we got anything new out of this, right? I think that's just what we got, yeah?
So what exactly is so hard about the drashos and a memory like this?
So I think he's saying like, let's compare it to the first one. It's usher to laugh fully until the Yemos Mashiach. So what that means, laughter means like not something tickles you, but like being very excessively happy. And it's bad to be excessively happy when we're still in galus. So like, it doesn't take much explanation, contextualizing maybe like why, whatever. Here though, like he's saying, first of all, the terms Yitzhar and Yetzer Tov, not everyone understands that it's talking about the Seichel and the Taivas. And people have lots of other ideas with the Yetzer Hara and the Yetzer Tov. Like in his footnote, he brings down people who think that the Yetzer Hara is like an external force. Like the Satan is like an external force, and like you hear people talk about the Sitra Achra.
What?
The Sitra Achra.
It's a Tanya term.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Kabbalah. I think it's pre-Tanya. I think it's like a Kabbalistic term.
Okay.
They talk about the Yetzer Hara they talk about it as like a koach hatuma, or like an external force that is like outside of you that's making you sin, which is different than what he's saying, So like there's different ideas of what the Yetzer Hara is, or let's say even like the cartoony, the voice that tells you to do bad things. That's a very childish idea of the Yetzer Hara, because the Yetzer Hara mostly, the most powerful Yetzer Haras are the ones that'll tell you to do good things. Like the road to hell's paved with good intentions. Like the Gemara, Kol Gadol Mechaver Yitzro Gadol Mimeno. And like the greater you are, more perfect you are, the greater your Yetzer Hara is. So like, if you view your Yetzer Hara as only the part that tells you to do bad things, you're gonna give into the Yetzer Hara a lot. Because there's a lot of Yetzer Hara that is like telling you to do good things. So like, I think it's just like that concept of Yetzer Hara and Yetzer Tov is very hard to understand. And then like Yargiz, the word is difficult to translate. And then even when he translated it, that explaining what the technique is, should I be Margiz Yetzer Tov over Yetzer Hara? And how does that help? Like that needs to be explained. And then like the mechanism, especially what we did with the footnote, how does that actually subdue your Yetzer Hara? Like, involvement of energy in the muskalos, or even like Mishle way, it's a lot. And then like understanding what the ideas are in saying Kriya Shema. First of all, it doesn't mean just saying Kriya Shema. It's like thinking about all the ideas and like shaping yourself in line with that. And then he didn't even go to the thing with the death, but like, I guess it's just all these terms are just very, very deep, and like each one's like a shiur in itself, So you're just not going to be able to get it from reading it. Whereas average person can get, okay, fine, I shouldn't be so happy when we're not in the time of Mashiach,
Yeah, I feel like this one, the person's gonna try it as a checklist, and it's not gonna work.
Yeah, right.
And then they're gonna be like this is just wrong.
Yeah, right. I'm saying Kriya Shema. Why is my Yetzer Hara not going down? Yeah. I saw a woman do this once. This is a weird experience. So this is in Hawaii, shortly after I converted, and it was before Hawaii had a minyan, like before Honolulu had a minyan, so like a regular minyan, So there was a Chabad there, and the Chabad. This is the irony. This is the weird full circle moment. So the Chabad was located in this remote part of Honolulu. It's not there anymore, I don't think. And we found out when we were there for a minyan that like right behind the Chabad was the graveyard where my Chinese ancestors are buried, where some of my relatives still do Chinese ancestor worship. It was just a weird, like, and I'm davening mincha here, But the weird thing was there's this woman who was a Hawaiian woman, and she was the driver of the Chabad guy. And we weren't sure what was going on at first. Like, she had to give us a ride because like we didn't have a car or whatever. And she would just repeat psukim as mantras. And I think it was something like Hashem Hoshia, what's the Yanim V'yom Karino, right? Like, Hamelch Yanim V'yom Karino, right? And she would just like in all of her spare time just be like repeating these mantras, And that's, to my knowledge, that's not a Chabad thing. I've never seen anyone in Chabad do that. But like, where else is she getting it? Like, I don't know where she's getting it from. But it's like she's using this like, and I don't know if she thinks she's davening or if it's like a meditation thing or if it's but that's like the type of thing I'm talking about. Like people could just like, I'm just gonna repeat Kriya Shema over and over and over again until I get it,
Yeah, and then when they inevitably fail at some point, then I think they also have like the feeling of like this whole it corrupted the whole like thing. Like this didn't work, and like it's now
right. yeah, it's either going to make them think that the thing didn't work or that they're not trying hard enough, and like there's something wrong with them. I'll tell you where I've seen this also. Like, people do this. They say like there's certain prakim of Tehillim that if you just say, it'll help you with certain things. Not even as tefillah, but like it'll so people get into modes with that. Or let's say like Shivisi Hashem Lenegdisami, like picture your kibbutz in front of your head all the time. Like it's just like people take these things and they just treat them like at face value and then just apply them. And I guess that's a particular danger with actionable midrashim. Not all midrashim are actionable, but this one is. Like, what's the worst that happens if it's a midrash you don't understand and you just take it simplistically? So then, yeah, you just have a superficial idea. Here, it's like you're incorporating it into your avodas Hashem in a way, Yeah. All right, let's do one more. Drashos shenemru midas hachachamim zal derech tzachus kimlitzas hashir. We didn't read this last time, I don't think. So this is drashos that were stated from the mind of the chachamim in a, I never know how to translate derech tzachos. Shorthand manner, concise manner, stylistic manner, like a poem. Okay. What? Yeah. Hachelak harvi mehen drashos amru aleim shalom oso bebir psukim b'derech melitzas hashir. Okay, so this is the one drashos that they said by way of poetry, or however you want to translate melitzas hashir. Oh, you got to look at this footnote here. This one I read. Oh, this is a good one. I wrote a whole blog post about this one, I think. Benitfas mechamade hashir uba aravis al nadar al shari v'chigumo hamilulihi melitas hapiut. So in a poetic way. V'anu b'charne b'lashon ha'takaso shel harav vidal Rebbi Nispach shetirgem melitas hashir v'nir shenimshach b'zeh achar lashon harama b'mor nevuchim v'atakas Rav Shmuel ibn Tibon. So it seems like he's following what the Rambam says in the Mor Nevuchim, according to the translation of Ibn Tibun. So he's going to quote the Rambam here. So this is what I wrote the blog post about. Omnam arbas minim shebelulav kvar zachruzal bo ktsas siba altzad hadrashos shedarchem yedua lemi shehevin divrehem. Okay, so when Chazal give explanations of the lulav, now he's talking here about what are the common explanations of the lulav of the Arba Minim? The ones that all the people say.
That's four types.
Four types of Jews, for body parts, for like
I haven't heard that.
What?
I haven't heard that before.
So 4 types of Jews. There's because the esrog has a tam and a reach.
Oh, I've heard that.
Yeah, right. There's the Jews with Masim and Chachma, and then was just Masim, and then was just Chachma, and then was no one. And you bring them all together, B'gud Achas, Or like the Lulav is the spine, and the Hadazim are the eyes. Sorry, the Hadazim are the eyes, yeah, and the Aravas are the lips, and the Esrog is the heart. Yeah, right.
Never heard that before.
Yeah, okay, good. So you should be a zochet to not hear more. No. So Ram says, so these are things that these drashos, Shadarham Yadu Misha Havin Divrehem, that their way is known to those who understand the words. Vizeshem Etlam Kidumus Melitas Ashir. These are just like poetic references. Lo Shahadavar Ahu Inyan Hapazakahu. Not that this is the actual meaning of the pasuk. Okay, this is the key thing, right? Is that when Chazal are giving these drashos, they're not explaining the meanings of the psukim. We'll bring more quotes about this. All right, gives another one. We don't need to read the rest of this here. There's another footnote I want to read in a second. Okay, back to the Avraham and Ram. So it's Melitzas here. Lo mivnei sha'omra sover shekavana zeh pasuk hi zos hadrasha. Not that the one who said the drasha thinks that that's the intent of the pasuk. Okay, now check out this footnote here. This is a keeper. But Takos harav Vidal hatzarfati hosif pasuk piska shalifnei zeh aval kfi hanira benkomo hanachan hukan b'zeh halashon. So this is what he quotes here. Riaz. Oh, sorry. So the Riaz is the Yeshaya Mitrani. I said that the Vidal is. I don't know who this Vidal person is.
French guy.
Yeah. Perakama Davodazara. I am Yerushalmi Nazir. V'chiha midrashos emunahim are midrashos beliefs. Ella darush v'kabel schar. Rather, just expound and receive reward. Emunah v'ikar ella darash b'shivim panim. All right, so that doesn't make grammatical sense. Emunah v'ikar ella b'shivim panim. But then he quotes the full thing. He says, "Kachol nir tzien harav vidal atmo l'divir riaz be'perkam devorzar v'tzitzatam b'diglug." He quoted them like in part. Lomar shehim mat'imim l'divir Rabbeinu kan. Divir hariaz huvu b'shleimusan b'shilte hagiborim be'perkam devorzar. So here's the full quote. This is a great quote in the Shilte Hagiborim. V'yesh min ha-midrashim shekavanas ha-chachamim behem lidrosh ha-mikra b'chol inyan sheyecholin lidrosh. There are midrashim where the chachamim intended to just expound the pasuk in whatever way they could. V'amru, and they said, "Ein mikra yozeh midei pshuto shehu ha'ikar." No mikra departs from its pshat, which is the ikar. V'chol midrashim hanidrashim bo yesh min shehu ikar karov l'pshat. There are some where the ikar is close to the pshat. V'yesh min sheyesh bo remez b'ma'at, and some of them just have an illusion. V'od amru b'talmud Eretz Yisrael b'perek zayin denazir v'chi ha-midrashos amanahim. Are midrashos matters of belief? Ella darsh v'kabel sachar. Rather expound and receive reward. Halacha hadavar mavur. So it's clear. Shelo amru hachachamim hamidrashim al derech emuna ve'ikar ella laharbos ta'amim lemikra uledarsha b'chol panim v'ula yesh behen remes. The chachamim never said the midrashim by way of emuna and ikar. Rather, just to increase meanings to the mikra and to expound it in every way possible, and maybe there will be in them an illusion. So this is like a thing about the philosophy of midrash. Why did the chachamim darshan the midrashim? To just attach as many ideas as possible to the psukim to receive schar, not to establish matters of emunah and ikar, and not to say that this is the real meaning of the pasuk. Yeah.
What does that mean to get schar from attaching to the pasuk? Like, why can't you just come up with good ideas?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, there's a practical matter. This is my understanding. It's a practical matter of attaching to the pasuk of Masorah, of like, you're not writing them down, and so the more ideas you can attach to the words of the psukim, and then pass that down, then the better. Because now when people read the pasuk, they'll associate to all these ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one way to do it. But then the other way to do it is that there is a certain rhetorical effect of attaching an idea to a pasuk that makes it imprint on the psyche in a different way. Like I'm trying to think of common examples of like really effective ones. Like, let's say like the ones about God to teach you good midos. God descended to see Sodom and Amorah. And like the idea there is that a judge shouldn't judge a case until he investigates the facts firsthand. So you see, God does this. So like attaching that, or here's one that I taught in Jewish ethics today, is Rambam says for Ahavas Hager that the pasuk uses the same term for the mitzvah of Ahavas Hager as it does for Ahavas Hashem, because it says V'ahavtem es hager, and it says V'ahavta es Hashem lokacha, as opposed to say V'ahavta lire'acha kamocha. So it uses the same lashon for Ahavas Hager and Ahavas Hashem, and then it also says, and God Himself loves gerim, because it describes God as ohev ger. So in our shiur, we define what those ideas are, and those ideas could stand independently of those psukim, but there's a certain rhetorical impact of like God Himself loves the ger, therefore you should love the ger. So when you attach whatever idea you get from that to that pasuk, then it's like it has like it's one of the darkei Hashem. It makes you associate it with emulating Hashem. When it says you should love Hashem, and that's the same as loving the ger, you associate in your mind Avas Hashem is like this huge mitzvah. So now Avas Ger is like this huge mitzvah. So I think these are all advantages of like attaching it to the psukim as well. Yeah. Okay. Let's go back to the Amram and Ramam. Of al kiyotze b'zeh amru zav mikra l'chud u'midrash l'chud. That's why they say the pasuk is one thing and midrash is another thing. Okay, hold on. Let me see how long this section is. Yeah. Should we finish this today, or do you want to save it for next time? I'm fine either way.
Next time.
All right, let's do it next time. All right, good. All right, let's save it for next time then. All righty. That way I'll get to look at the footnotes ahead of time and see which ones we should do and which ones we should skip.